Here we have the 2-hour price chart for NIO Incorporated, stock ticker NIO. Here we can see that the stock is trading under a bit of selling pressure to close the week. And this is interesting because we're also sort of seeing this in Tesla as well. We're seeing some downside price movements in Tesla, and I'm starting to believe that this is starting to drag on NIO stock as well. Anybody that's been following the market for the past 2 weeks knows that there has been some significant selling pressure that's been seen in the stock market in general. And we're talking about the S&P 500, the Nasdaq, the Dow, and then definitely within the Mag 7 stocks. We have seen a large amount of selling pressure that has been flowing through the market, during the last 10 days or so. So, to some extent, it has been surprising because we've actually seen some upward price movements in NIO during this period of time. Currently, I would not say that the same thing is true. We are seeing a bit of a decline here, and we should take a closer look at this price formation that's forming here, so that we can try to get an idea of where the support and resistance levels rest. Uh, where the support and resistance levels rest going forward. So, in particular, we should really be looking at the this kind of double top condition here. Um, let's try to keep the stock in view here. Okay, so what we're really looking at here is a price high, which comes in at roughly just above 490. But we're seeing a couple of tests here in this upper area. And this now would mark a fairly strong resistance zone to the top side near term. This would be on a very short term basis. We have to remember this is a 2-hour chart, and then within this context, we're looking at a very small piece of that chart. So these are relatively small price movements here. But now that this double top condition has formed, we can see that near term support levels at 455 have been broken to the downside. Currently, we're trading at 447, so we could get a bit of a downside close here to end the week. Really, what I would be pointing to the most here would be the fact that we have now broken back through the exponential moving average cluster. Previously, we did see a fairly clear break here to the top side. We saw sort of a break high or a fall back into the moving average cluster, and then another break out of there. And then as this occurred, we did start to lose this broader downtrend line, which has been in place for quite a while now. We've been talking about this downtrend line since this would have started roughly the middle of May. So it is a fairly significant downtrend line. And it is important because this is sort of going to be kind of a determining factor in whether or not this broader downtrend remains in place, or whether or not we're actually starting to see more of a real reversal point from these lows. So what we were pointing to here would have been a descending triangle pattern. We're trying to kind of grind through the top side here. We have done that. We have managed to close here with some of these price candles. And that does suggest that, that the pattern itself has been broken. But it is a little bit disconcerting here to see that we're breaking through support levels. And I just wonder how much of this actually has to do with external factors rather than NIO stock itself. Because, I just finished a video on Tesla. And I do suggest that people take a look at that one because, there have been some fairly significant moves there to the downside. And that's important too, because Tesla was another one of these stocks that had really kind of bucked the trend and not really fallen victim to the broader selling pressure that was being seen within the technology space and within the stock market as a whole. So, these recent declines is really just today that we have started to see selling pressure in Tesla. And these companies have a lot in common with one another. So it's not entirely surprising to see some downside pressure here as well. I mean, I don't believe that, that downside in NIO stock is causing downside in Tesla stock. I think that it's the other way around. I think that Tesla is a much bigger name here. So if there's going to be an influential stock, that influence would start with Tesla and then possibly kind of make its way over to NIO share prices as well. On the fortunate side, what we can say is that the price declines here have been nowhere near as dramatic as they have been in Tesla. I mean, we're talking about declines here of less than 50 cents. And that's even if we're going back all the way to these recent highs, this sort of double top high here. So this is just above $4.90. And then these price lows are just above 440, just above $4.40. So, we're talking about, right around 50 cents in share price declines, as opposed to, much more sizable declines that are being seen with Tesla. So overall, I would be more concerned with a Tesla position than I would be with a NIO position, because, the price movements have been smaller. And the potential for downside here is much more limited if we compare these two stocks. So currently, what we have to look at here is this most recent support zone that is now forming. This would be just below 450. We can really kind of point to these uh, prior lows from July 9, where we can see that share prices have managed to find some support in the lower 40s. The last time we reached this area, we were able to bounce back into this 490 region, and this was the initial price move that did finally sort of break through this downtrend line and this descending triangle pattern on a closing basis. We possibly saw a few spikes above here previously, but there were no closing periods. Here we can see that this prior retest, sub 450, is really what kind of caused the stock to kind of start, to start to take off and start to approach this $5 mark once again. So there's scope here that we could see a similar price move to the top side. I can understand if there might be some concerns about whether or not this descending triangle has actually broken. But what we have to remember here is that this trend continues to move to the downside. I mean, even if we want to say that prior move was a false breakout, what we have to understand here is that it's going to take less and less for the share price to actually break this pattern. So, currently, we'd be looking at, price movements of closer to 470 rather than 490. And there really isn't much resistance in this area. I mean, you do have the moving average cluster in this area. Um, but as far as historical support is concerned, this isn't really found until we reach above the 490 level. So, it's going to become easier and easier to break out of this descending triangle. Even if we want to make the argument that it has not been broken yet. I mean, I'm not quite there yet. I'm not convinced that this was a false breakout. It will be telling here to see if we kind of lose this support zone at 445. But I think a lot of this is really going to depend on share price action in Tesla. I think that's really kind of guiding the show here, rather than with NIO stock itself. We just haven't had any major fundamental news that's directly related here. And I think that these are sort of broader selling pressures that are sort of making their presence felt in NIO as well. So here's the current market analysis for NIO Incorporated, stock ticker NIO.